The Buccaneers are missing a lot of key players this weekend against the Seahawks. That and more on today's episode of Locked On Bucs.
You are Locked On Buccaneers, your daily Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, and welcome into this live preview episode of Locked On Bucs, your daily podcast covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank you for making Locked On Bucs your first listener view every day. Don't forget you can subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, you can follow along on Twitter. I am James Yarcho at JYarcho_Bucs, credentialed member of the media covering your Tampa Bay Buccaneers, here with you 5 days a week along with the everydayers. And for that, I want to share my appreciation for your continued support of the show. One of the ways you can support the show is become a Locked On Bucs insider. You're going to get news, rumors, updates, general thoughts, one-on-one conversations with me via text message. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnBucs or click the link in the show notes to become an insider today. This episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. Keys to victory and predictions all coming up in a little bit, but we have to start with the bad news. And of course, as it has been every single week this year, it's all about the injury report. The Buccaneers have officially ruled out Mike Evans, Jamel Dean, Bucky Irving, Christian Izien, and Benjamin Morrison for this game, and that is a huge blow across the board. Now, I'm going to start here with Bucky Irving because honestly, and some of you in the live chat are probably going to give me grief about this, honestly, I think that's the injury here that is going to affect them the least. Now, don't take that the wrong way. That doesn't mean that Bucky Irving isn't good or isn't a big part of what they do on offense. I just think at this moment, that's the one that they could absorb a little bit easier than the others. Evans being out is huge because of the attention that he attracts and the fact that he opens things up for the other guys. You would hope that Chris Godwin shakes the rust off and he's going to look a little bit more like himself, but that's not a given. It may be a few more weeks before he's really starting to become a true factor in the passing game. That means all the attention now is going to be on Emeka Egbuka and trying to eliminate him from the options that Baker has until someone else can prove that they can be a factor. It could be Shep, could be Ryan Miller, it could be Tez, but someone is going to have to step up and show the Seahawks that they can't focus all their attention on Egbuka all game long. The bigger story here is the combination of Dean, Morrison, and Izien. I'm with Evan on this after he talked about it earlier this week. Having all three of these guys out in this game is absolutely brutal for the defense. It means a whole lot of shuffling around and moving guys out of positions that they played. And, so far this season, the Bucs defense has been a really solid unit. So you don't want those guys moving all over the field. Now, Bowles wasn't going to give away any specifics, which is absolutely the right move, but there's a few options that you could see happen because of these injuries. The first is they move Parrish from nickel to the outside corner. To replace Dean and Morrison. Then you slide Tyke Smith back to nickel where he played last year, and you start Kavion Merriweather at safety next to Antoine. That weakens your last line of defense because of the significant drop from Tyke to Merriweather. So now they're going to be a little more susceptible to the big play. The next option is you elevate Bryce Hall from the practice squad and you start him on the outside, leaving Parrish and Tyke where they usually are. Now that's going to make one of the outside corners a little bit weaker, but it might honestly be the best option in terms of the overall defense and keeping these stronger players at their positions. The thing about the Seahawks is that their strength in the receiving game boils down to one guy lining up on the outside, and that's Jackson Smith and Jigba. Zion McCollum is going to be tested a lot. Hopefully we see him play better than we have seen at times this year, but that is going to be the matchup to really watch. Other than that, they have Cooper Kupp, who has been underwhelming since his one breakout season in 2021, and he primarily has lined up in the slot. So you want Jacob Parrish lining up at the nickel corner spot where he has been absolutely fantastic this season to cover the other big threat in their passing game. But really, it's been JSN and the running game for the Seahawks this season. JSN has more receptions this year than all the other receivers on the team combined. The tight ends, Elijah Arroyo and AJ Barner, have gotten more receiving work than all the receivers other than JSN and Cooper Kupp. That's where you're going to run into some problems, is covering those two guys. Dennis and Levante both had issues this season against tight ends in coverage. So we don't know what the starters or the positions are going to look like on Sunday. There might be a lot of shuffling on the fly in 2 receiver sets. It might be Parrish and McCollum. 3 receiver sets, you might see Hall or Kendall Vildor, Josh Hayes come in, and then Parrish slides back to that nickel position. There might be a lot of disguising. So, when you have all these different secondary pieces that can bounce around, Todd Bowles, we talked about it all offseason. He likes these guys that can play multiple positions. That might be where you get a little bit of a benefit of having all of those guys, is because you can move them all around and you can disguise things so that Sam Darnold might not ever really get a grasp on who is going to be where after the snap. So that might be a little bit of a competitive advantage on that side. As for the Seahawks, they are not without their own problems. Devin Witherspoon, who I talked about in my matchup to watch on the crossover, he is out. That is going to make things interesting against Ibuka, but don't forget they still have Reek Woolen, who is absolutely fantastic. And now they have Eamon Warry returning this week, which is a big weapon to have back in their secondary that will be without Witherspoon, and also fellow safety Julian Love. Seattle will also be without defensive end DeMarcus Lawrence, which is a huge blow to their run defense as well as their pass rush. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I tried to get through it. I warned you guys in the chat there was going to be coughing fits. That might help the Bucs get things going on the ground a little bit easier, which is going to open up some shots for Baker to take down the field later on in the game. And then finally, Seattle will be without backup tackle Josh Jones. That's not really going to play a huge factor in this game unless Charles Cross or Abraham Lucas go down. The big one to watch here is Witherspoon, of course, but then Lawrence, who is really going to affect the way that Seattle is able to get natural pressure on Baker Mayfield as well as stopping the run game. I mean, Lawrence has been solid in pass rush, but he has been one of their better run defenders so far this season. And we're talking about a run defense. I'll talk a little bit more later about them, but they're one of the best in the NFL. So losing Lawrence, that does hurt their natural pass rush. They still have weapons. It's not like it's going to be a cakewalk by any stretch of the imagination when protecting Baker Mayfield, but every little bit helps in a game when you're missing Mike Evans, Bucky Irving, Jamel Dean, Benjamin Morrison, and Christian Izien. Going to jump into the chat real quick. Marcel, go after the Seahawks quarterback. Don't let him get comfortable. That was a big key in my crossover episode for those that didn't see it. I will talk more about it in a little bit. But yes, you have got to generate pressure on Sam Darnold. Demon Hunter, I'll say it again. All eyes on 25. He gets a pick 6 against Darnold. I would love to see that. Bat W, if Tez is starting to get the playbook, he could have a good game. I 100% agree with that. Let's see. Demon Hunter, you spoke a lot about Nick Eamon-Warry. Sorry, can't pronounce or spell his last name. Yeah, Eamon-Warry was a guy that I did talk about a lot in the draft process. He dropped farther in the draft than I would have expected, but that was something that we talked about leading up to the draft, was how crazy this draft class was. The guys that we talked about going in the 2nd round could go in the 5th. Guys that we talked about going in the 6th round could go on day 2, because there was a lot of really good talent. There just wasn't a lot of elite talent. So, these guys got jumbled up. But yeah, Eamon-Warry, I talked a lot about Xavier Watts too. He just won the NFC Defensive Rookie of the Month for September. Emeka Ibuka, he won the Offensive Rookie of the Month for September. But, you could make the argument legitimately that it should have gone to Ibuka on offense and Jacob Parrish on defense. Xavier Watts has those takeaways. That's why I talked about him so much. He is a ball hawk, and he got those takeaways, and it led to a Defensive Player of the Month nod. So what do the Buccaneers need to do to win this game? That is coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Bucs, part of The Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by Square, your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. There are certain businesses that truly make the neighborhood feel like home. Whether it's the local sports bar packed on game days, the coffee shop that knows your order by heart, or the corner deli that's been serving your community for decades, these are the places that bring people together. When neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. Those local spots are what make the neighborhood feel like home. And so many of them run on Square. Places like United Skates of America in Tampa, Hampton Chocolate Factory, Coco Sandwich Shop, and Hot Bins Tampa. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/LockedOnNFL to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy that you did. Square, see you in the neighborhood. This episode is brought to you by Mazda's moving the game forward for those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. Despite suffering their first loss of the season last week, the Buccaneers never gave up after falling behind the Eagles by more than 20 points, thanks in large part to the effort of Baker Mayfield, who tried to once again orchestrate a fourth quarter comeback. Baker had over 220 passing yards and 2 touchdowns in the second half against the defending Super Bowl champions, including 2 touchdown passes of over 70 yards each to set the team up with a chance to tie the game late in the fourth quarter. Unfortunately, they fell short. But with that said, with Baker Mayfield under center, the Bucs are never out of a game, and they have been able to find wins in unexpected ways so far this season. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to every Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Thank you again for making Locked On Bucs your first listen review every single day. A reminder that you can follow our show and hear new episodes ad-free daily on Amazon Music. All right, how do the Bucs win this game? Let's start on the offensive side of the ball. And we know Baker wants to feed Ibuka in this one. We know Ibuka wants to show out for his family and friends who will be in attendance in large numbers. But while we're all rooting for another explosive Ibuka game with over 100 yards and at least a score, that's not where the Bucs need to look early on. What they really need to do is get these running backs involved in the passing game. Last year, the Buccaneers running backs averaged 7 targets per game. This year, they're averaging exactly that, but it's got to be more in this matchup. Seattle, one of their biggest weaknesses on the defensive side, and they don't have many, but one of their biggest weaknesses is allowing big plays to running backs in the passing game. They are allowing over 63 yards per game to opposing running backs on passing plays. They have given up 27 receptions for 253 yards so far this season. That's nearly 10 yards per reception just to running backs. Seattle is a top 5 run defense. They're one of the more stout passing defenses, except yards after the catch. The Seattle Seahawks are 26th in the NFL in allowing yards after catch. So that's where they're vulnerable. That's where the Buccaneers can really take advantage. This is the matchup where the short passing game can yield explosive results. Checkdowns galore to Rachaad, Tucker, and rookie Josh Williams. Short crossing routes to Ibuka, Shep, Godwin, Tez. Get that guy the ball in space against one of the worst teams in the NFL in allowing yak. That's where you're going to be able to manufacture big plays. You don't need to drop back and protect Baker for 3.5, 4 seconds to let these long routes develop. You just need to get your playmakers the ball in space in that second level and let their legs do the rest. I know everybody loves how elusive Bucky is, but he's not the only one. Ibuka is elusive. Godwin, we haven't seen it yet this year, but we know that he can get through the second and third levels and make guys miss. Tez can do it. Shep, he's not known for it, but he can break a tackle or two. Sean Tucker, he'll just bowl you right over. And then Josh Williams, I think he has the opportunity to really give this team a spark, given what we saw from him throughout training camp and the preseason. Missing Mike Evans and Bucky Irving really hurts what the Bucs are capable of in this matchup. You're talking about a defense that's top 5 in points per game, takeaways per game, goal-to-go efficiency, and then they're top 10 in red zone efficiency, which is somewhere the Bucs have struggled this season, as well as 3-and-out percentage, where the Bucs have also struggled this season. So attack their weakness. You have the pieces to do it. You just have to get the ball into their hands with quick, short routes and let those yards after catch really start to rack up, especially to your running backs. We know how good Rachaad can be in the passing game, so let him do what he does best. Rachaad has looked good this season. This is his opportunity to return to that 2023, 2022 form. You know, we saw glimpses of it last year, but not to the level that we saw in 2023. We've seen it start to build this year when he's gotten opportunities. He's going to get a ton of opportunities in this one, but he has to get the ball in space. Don't rely on him just to make plays in the running game. You got to get him those quick swing passes, those quick dump offs, and then let him make plays the way we know he can. Defensively, it's still all about the pressure on Sam Darnold. Darnold is just a different quarterback this season against blitzes, and the numbers show that. 20% drop in completion percentage. All of his turnovers coming against the blitz. However, on top of that, you have to eliminate JSN from this game. The same way that I expect Seattle to try and eliminate Ibuka and force someone else on the Buccaneers to step up, the Bucs have to do the same to JSN. No other receiver has been able to do anything for the Seahawks this season. Force Cooper Kupp to try and show that he can carry the load like he did 4 years ago in Los Angeles, because at this point, we know that he probably can't. Try to force the ball into the hands of Torrey Horton or Jake Bobo, who have a combined 7 catches this season. I have faith in the Bucs run defense to just do what it does. I'm not worried about Kenneth Walker or Zach Charbonnet going crazy in the run game. And we know that Kenneth Walker is just as likely to try to make something out of nothing and result in a 5, 6, 9-yard loss as he is to break off a 15 or a 20-yard run. So with the Bucs being able to handle business in the running game, there's only one other guy to focus your energy and resources on. You double him. You bracket him all game long. I don't care if it's Antoine, if it's Tyke, if it's Merriweather, if it's a combination of the three. There should be no point in time all game long where JSN is one-on-one with anybody. He is their only weapon in the pass game. And if the Bucs can contain him while getting that pressure on Darnold that has caused a significant drop in his efficiency and his numbers this season, then they're going to give themselves a legit chance to win a very, very difficult road game. Going to jump into the chat again. Richard, defense needs turnovers, 100%. But you're not going to get those off of Darnold, at least, without blitzing. When he's not blitzed, he's incredibly efficient, he's incredibly accurate, and he has not turned the ball over. JSN, he's got 2 fumbles on the year. Kenneth Walker, he's got a history of some fumble problems. So you can create takeaways that way, but unless you're bringing a blitz, Darnold has been incredibly good at making sure that he's protecting the football and making smart plays down the field, and that goes back to last year with Minnesota. Let's see. David says, Cade Otton needs to play good. He's been super quiet. He has, but I think it's almost by design. I brought this up a couple of times. Cade Otton is not running the number of routes that we're used to him running. They've kept him in for most of the season as an additional blocker to help with that restructured offensive line. Now, we saw him go out on a few more routes against Philadelphia than he had in previous games this season. So I think that's going to continue to grow and continue to build now that the protection is getting a little bit better with the return of Wirfs in that left side of the line being what it's supposed to be. You're still going to need to keep him in at times to help out Charlie Heck, who got absolutely worked by the Eagles. But I think Otton has been a victim of circumstance this year rather than anything that he himself is doing to create a drop in production. Let's see. We have Marcel says Baker needs open receivers. That would help. That would certainly help. And Ibuka is going to have a heck of a time trying to get open in this one, even without my guy, Devin Witherspoon, who I will root for every week of every year, unless they're playing the Buccaneers. But Reek Woolen is an absolute monster. They have one of the better cornerback duos in the NFL. So it's going to be really, really hard without Mike to create those open opportunities for Ibuka. You need Godwin to start off hot in this one. He had three receptions on 10 targets last week against the Eagles. You need Godwin to catch his first 3 or 4 targets right out of the gate. And that is going to be something that will start to open up the opportunities for Ibuka, because Godwin just showed that he was rusty last week. The Eagles didn't have to worry about him to the level that they would have this time last year. Shep, while he's been good, he's not the threat that a healthy Godwin is. So Ibuka, much like how JSN is the Lone Ranger there in the Seattle passing game right now, it's Ibuka and a bunch of guys that need to prove that they can do it on a consistent basis. We know Godwin will get there, but he's got to look better than he did last week if Ibuka is going to get some one-on-one opportunities. All right, it is prediction time. That is coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Bucs.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance. You can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
Wrapping things up here on a live preview edition of Locked On Bucs, and it is time for those predictions to start dropping them in the chat. Evan did reach out to me earlier and gave me some updates for his predictions. He says that Seattle is going to win the turnover battle and that the Bucs are going to have trouble moving the ball and wind up stuck in field goal range for a lot of this game. He's picking Seattle to win 22-16. All right, my bold prediction for this one is that 2 of the Buccaneers running backs will score a touchdown. It can be any combination of the 3, but I get a sense that we're going to see some sort of crazy play from Josh Williams in this one. He is a really, really talented running back, and he should see some opportunities in this game, but it doesn't matter if it's on the ground or through the air. 2 of the Buccaneers running backs will find pay dirt against this stingy Seattle defense. My predictive player of the game, I'm going with Jacob Parrish. He has been absolutely outstanding this season. Mina Kimes has been talking this week about how impressive Parrish and Morrison have been this year, praised Light for crushing it in the draft once again. But if Seattle is going to beat the Bucs, they are going to have to use Cooper Kupp. And I don't think Parrish is going to let that happen. He has been a shutdown guy. He's tied for 11th among all rookies in pressures. That is absolutely wild. But that means that when Bowles sends him, which is not often, but on the occasions that Bowles says, all right, Parrish, this is you, go get after the quarterback, he's getting home and he's getting the job done. He is the number 12 corner in the entire league in coverage grade by PFF. By the way, shout out, credit where credit is due. Jamel Dean is 7th in coverage grade this season, according to PFF. And Jacob Parrish is the only rookie in the top 20. If the Bucs are going to win, Parrish is going to have to be a difference maker in this one. And I think he can be. I think in this one, he is going to get enough opportunity and enough attention to get, to create enough of a buzz where people on a national level start to notice how good this kid really is. Score prediction for this one is tough. I think if both teams are healthy, and I mean both teams being fully healthy, the Bucs win. The talent on the Bucs side is better overall, and they have so many more weapons on offense with a quarterback that I personally trust more. No disrespect to Darnold. He has picked up right where he left off last season with the Minnesota Vikings. I think his career turnaround is one of the most feel-good stories in the NFL. I love that he's having success. I just think that not having Evans, not having Jalen McMillan, not having Bucky Irving, compounded with the shuffling that's taking place in the secondary, is going to be too much to overcome on the road. I think it's going to be close. It's not going to surprise me one bit if it comes down to the final minute like every other Bucs game has this season. But this is the point in the year where things typically go south for the Bucs. And you mix that history with the injury issues that they're having. Until they prove that they can win these kinds of games in the second quarter of the season, I can't bring myself to pick them to win this game. I'm going to take Seattle to win 27-23. I hope I come on here on the live show and every single one of you in the live chat rips me a new one for picking against the Bucs. I almost picked against them last week. I was this close, and I thought, Wirfs, Godwin, their returns, it was going to be enough to give them that emotional lift that they needed. They tried. They made it real close. They made it a heck of a lot more interesting than it started off being, but I don't have a good feeling about this game. I really, really don't. It'll be aesthetically pleasing, but I just think this is a moment where the injuries are too much for the Bucs. Not to mention Seahawks coming off of a mini bye. They were the Thursday night game last week. They've had extra time. Same thing's going to happen next week against the 49ers. They played Thursday night. They're going to have extra time, but they're even more banged up than the Bucs are. All right, going to jump into the chat and see what some of your guys' predictions are, and probably have to eat my medicine because you guys are not going to be happy that I picked the Seahawks. Let's see. We have Marcel saying Bucs 26-23. Richard, Bucs 26-24. Buckin 27-17. Tampa. Lakita 24-21 Bucs. Bat W, fast start is the key. Yeah, 100%. If they start up, you cannot spot these teams multiple score leads to start off games. And this is going to be another tough one where it'll be difficult for the Bucs to score on their opening possession. It'll be difficult for the defense to stop Seattle on their opening possession. I expect them to settle in, but we've got to figure out something to get these faster starts going. David in the chat, 31-21 Bucs, 200 yards rushing. Woof. I'm not that bold, sir. And then he says, player of the game, Chris Godwin. Chet, Bucs 27, Seattle 13. David McCollum gets an interception. I like that. He is kind of due. I saw somebody, Lakita in the chat said McCollum is due. I agree with that wholeheartedly. Demon Hunter, Bucs are the first team to score more than 25 against Seattle. Parrish gets 3 total turnovers. 1 is a pick 6. That is extremely bold. Bat W says, hey, we should have a big presence at Lumen Field. That is correct. The Loose Cannon guys, my buddies over there, this is one of their annual road trips that they've orchestrated. So there's going to be a lot of Bucs fans traveling. Plus, you have Emeka Ibuka's mom, who basically took out an entire section. Lots of friends and family there with the requirement that they wear Bucs gear and cheer for the Buccaneers. So, yeah, the Bucs will have a very, very strong presence in Seattle. I hope they can take it over the same way Eagles fans took over Ray J. I'm not pointing any fingers, but those of you that are season ticket holders, knock this stuff off. When the Eagles come to town, when the Steelers come to town, when division opponents come to town, stop selling your tickets. Or if you're going to sell them to someone is a Buccaneers fan. I get so sick of seeing Ray J taken over by, an entirely other fan base. It's really annoying. David says Godwin over 100 yards and a touchdown. McCollum gets an interception. That's my prediction, with the Bucs winning by over 8 points. Woo-hoo, buddy. Lakita says another heart attack finish. Yeah, that's all the Bucs have done this year. Until there's not a heart attack finish, just assume that there's going to be a heart attack finish. Doesn't matter how the game starts. Does not matter. When it gets to the fourth quarter, we know at some point it's going to be a one-possession game, and everybody's going to be pulling their hair out. That's just how the game is operated. Bucs were up by 1 billion points against the Jets, turned into a heart attack game. Eagles were up by over 20 against the Bucs last week, turned into a heart attack finish. That's just how the season is going to go. So everybody prepare for your extra gray hairs that the Bucs are going to give you. One last time, Richard calling for another homecoming, because I didn't even mention, Vita Vea played in Washington. Cade Otton was a Husky. Richard says Otton 2 touchdowns coming home. I would love to see that. Really start to get him going. But this is going to do it for this one. Please make sure that you are subscribed on YouTube with the notifications turned on, as well as wherever you get your podcast. Follow on Twitter at Locked On Bucs, at @JYarcho_Bucs, Instagram and TikTok at Locked On Bucs, at both of those places. Become a Locked On Bucs insider. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnBucs, or click the link in the show notes. If you want to support the show, you don't want to be an insider, it's real simple. Like this episode on YouTube, leave a 5-star review wherever you get podcasts. It does help other Buccaneers fans find the show. We will be going live with a reaction episode after the Seahawks game. So again, make sure those notifications are turned on. You'll know when I go live to react to what happened in that game. Until then, please stay safe, stay healthy, fire the cannons. Want to thank you so much for joining me right here on Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.